Welcome back to another video for those of you who are rejoining us, and thank you for stopping by. This is your first time checking this out. So I'm actually talking about what's going on with my pec. So, Saturday I actually tweaked my pec and hurt it. And then today is actually Tuesday. I had to take off of work today because I had to bring my kids to the doctor to get their tonsils checked because they keep getting strep. Since I was off today, I took advantage of that when I got up in the morning and I did my cardio. I have a 50-pound bar and I have a 100-pound bar that I use for deep tissue. So I worked on the 50-pound bar until I broke up some of that tissue for whatever I did to my pec. And then I did some stretching. I did some range of movements. I did a various range of different motions to get as much blood in the area as I could. And then I took my 100-pound bar and I rolled my pec out with that. And that hurt pretty dang bad. When I got done with that, I did some more range of motion movements and work to get as much blood in there as I could. Now, when I woke up this morning, it wasn't too bad. It felt better today than it did for sure yesterday. But when I got done doing the tissue work, it kind of was agitated, obviously, and it was kind of bothering me. But as the day's gone on, I feel like it's loosened up and felt better. And tonight, I'm going to actually get my massage gun, and I'm going to work on my scapula and my lat under my arm and try to see if I have anything knotted up in there that might be contributing to my pec being pulled or strained and from impingement. So I'm going to see if I can't find anything back there that might actually help relieve or let loose to relax my pec a little bit more. But it is feeling better, and I'm very optimistic on it healing up fairly quickly because I don't think I tore anything. I think I just might have strained or pulled something in my pec. And so whatever I did, it's very minor, but I'm still going to give it 3 to 6 weeks before I start adding any weight to my workouts for my chest. I'm just going to take it easy, work around it. And, I'd rather give up a couple weeks of training versus a couple months or years from seriously injuring it. But I'm going to do everything I can in my power to get it healed up as fast as I can. It's just one of those things, man, getting older and things just kind of happen. And unfortunately, this wasn't something that happened in the gym. There was no foresight or no indication that something was going on, but, it happened, and we'll make the best of it. I'm not going to let it get me down, and I'm not going to let it hold me back. I'm just going to work around it and keep pushing forward because I have a goal at the end of the day, and I'm going to keep inching towards that goal no matter what.
Yeah, like best case scenario for you being that it is just a strain kind of thing. So hopefully that's all it was. And doing the rehabilitation stuff you were doing today, plus some more stuff and things you've done even the past couple of days will help kind of get you through and past whatever the issue is. For me, like I haven't really done any sort of not mobility, but like rehabilitation type things yet. It's something that I do need to like try and get in front of though, rather than fall behind on, because like doing the bars and stuff like that, it definitely does have its benefits and it's very helpful, especially like I have like that little green, it's like a cane looking thing they sell at the stores, and I use that often, but that's mostly like on my upper neck back area where I can kind of reach. I use it on my legs a little bit, but yeah, like actually having the bars and being able to set the weight on there and kind of roll it down and stuff like that, it is tremendously helpful, especially when you find those trouble areas and knots and things like that, and you're able to really kind of break them up and focus on them a lot easier. So it's something I need to kind of do, and I was maybe like Sundays would probably be a good time to do it, but again, when we get to closer to, like, because we're getting closer to the end of the 12 weeks, so maybe that week in between sort of thing, I can kind of really focus on it during those days too.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, there's like this little massage hook, and it's to help you hook around the back side of you so you can massage out your own like back, traps, scapula area. You can get them on Amazon or at Academy or any store really that sells any type of fitness equipment. And then the bars that we're talking about is I have round stock. I have a 2-foot bar. I have two 2-foot bars. They're 2 foot long. One's 3-inch diameter. The other one is 4-inch diameter. One weighs 50, the other one weighs 100. So instead of using foam rollers, I use these for constant tension from gravity. So that way I can pin things, and it works better like deep tissue than using a foam roller, and it's cheaper than going to massage therapist. But so with all that being said, anytime I've ever got hurt, the way that I go about rehabbing is I always try to take it through a range of motion that doesn't hurt or cause pain. But also you have to take in consideration, if you pull a muscle or tear a muscle probably one of the worst things you could do for it is stretch it, because it's already torn, and stretching it isn't going to make it better. So a lot of times if you tear a muscle, depending on the tear, stretching it is something you want to avoid. You do want to take it through a range of motion that's pain free, but you don't want to exert it to the point where you tear it more or cause more injury. So there's a way to go about rehabbing certain injuries and certain ways that you hurt yourself. Like I said in the last video, like there's a difference between hurting yourself and getting injured. Injured is like an actual immediate tear, rip, pop, or separation. And getting hurt is something that can accumulate over time, or you have impingement or imbalance, or like your elbow's a little inflamed, or you have something in your back that's knotted up and it's causing pain somewhere else. And maybe like you pulled something, not injured, but even pulling or straining something isn't an injury. Like an injury is something that literally puts you down and out for a while. But like when I tore my hamstring a couple weeks out before I competed in a powerlifting meet, and I still went to the meet and competed. Fortunately, I didn't tear it any worse, but I worked on doing full range of motion and doing body weight squats every single day, 3-4 times a day, getting as much blood in there as I could. And surprisingly, after 3 weeks, I was recovered and I was able to go to the meet and compete and deadlift and squat. But there's a limitation to what you need to be able to put your body through, and you have to know what your limit is. And it's not one of those things that you want to find out like, oh, that's my limit because I just made it worse. Like you want to start off as light and as little range of motion as possible and slowly build into it and build into it, build into it. Just like whenever I tore my groin and I tore my other groin, or I tore both groins on both legs. And it was the same thing. I stayed off of it as much as I could, and I took it through a range of motion that didn't hurt and tried to get as much blood in there as I could. After about 2 to 3 weeks, my groin was healing up and I could get back to doing things as normal, but I didn't start loading it till about maybe 2 months after injuring it. And then I started loading it, and that's whenever I was able to get back to working out on my legs for certain movements. It's one of those things, man, where it's a tricky situation to be in if you've never been injured and you don't know the rehabilitation way to go about it. But at the same time, if you don't have the money to pay for a physical therapist, then you're going to have to figure it out pretty quick on your own. And there's a lot of good information out there and a lot of guys that know way more than me that have tons of videos on it out there. All you have to do is search it and you'll probably find 1,000 videos, but just be cautious of the videos you watch and who you're getting your information from, because there's some guys that are very creditable and some guys that just spew stuff out because they just heard something from someone else and they've never actually experienced or gone through it, and they've never actually helped anybody personally. They just saw something or read something, so now they think they're an expert. So be very cautious of who you get your information from and who you follow for rehabilitation advice. But this is something that you're going through if you've got injured, and you're going to have to pretty much navigate those waters, and there's people out there that will help. It's just a matter of, like I said, finding the right person to help.
Yeah, and also finding the type of rehabilitation that's going to work best for you. Like I've never really had luck with like the actual foam rollers and things like that. Like it just never really worked well for me. Like I try them and some people do them, and like there's videos of people that use them and they roll around on those things fluidly, easily. It's just not me. So like using the foam rollers, it's more of like a difficult process for me. Like I just kind of get bound up on it more than anything, which is why I like using the steel bars a lot more, because it's more of I control the weight from above sort of thing rather than trying to like lay on it and freaking position myself and hold my body a certain way and roll up and down kind of thing. It's like with those steel bars, it allows me to put the weight where I want it and just kind of move it back and forth with my hands for the most part. And that's just what works better for me. So, yeah.
Well, and the thing about foam rolling, like if your extent of like physical therapy or rehabilitation is foam rolling and only foam rolling, you need to seek advice and you need to get help from somebody or find someone who knows more than you, because foam rolling is good, don't get me wrong, but that's just tissue work. That all that is just getting the tissue like nimble, or if you're knotted up, or if you have like any type of like sticky tendons or gritty tissue, that's really what that's for. But for rehabilitation, it's going to take way more than foam rolling. That's just an extent. And honestly, I want it, depending on the injury, if you are injured, I don't even think I'd foam roll it. Or even do like heavy tissue work. It would come down to doing range of motion without load to stimulate blood flow, because the more blood you can put into the area, the faster you can heal it. And that's the thing too, because like tendons, ligaments, and joints, like cartilage, the only time they get blood flow is whenever you're moving them. But the catch is when you move it, it causes irritation. It aggravates the area, causing inflammation. There's two types of inflammation. There's bad inflammation and then there's good inflammation. Bad inflammation is the swelling of fluid and water in the area or the joint. Good inflammation is swelling of blood, where blood rushes in there and it lubricates and it brings nutrients. The more blood you could get into area, the more nutrients you could get into the area, the faster it'll heal and recover. So whenever you start moving something, if it's causing pain or you're agitating it, the only thing you're doing is causing it to swell up with inflammation and restrict blood flow, which is going to slow down the process of it healing. So whenever you take it through a range of motion, you need to make sure it's pain-free and you're not aggravating the area, but instead you're help promoting blood flow into the area. Also, vitamin E is actually really good for helping reduce inflammation in joints, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and promoting blood flow into those areas. So instead of taking an anti-inflammatory, and don't get me wrong, if you go see your doctor and they tell you to take an anti-inflammatory, listen to your doctor if they're a trustworthy doctor and they're sports therapy and they know what they're talking about. But if it's just some guy who's like, oh, you need anti-inflammatories and here's some pills, you might want to get a second opinion or go to someone else. But if you take anti-inflammatories for like arthritis or a severe inflammation in the joint, yes, absolutely, that's great. But if you're taking it just because you have agitated the joint, the anti-inflammatory actually reduces not only bad inflammation, but good inflammation as well, which will cause the area to take longer to heal up. So it's one of those things, it's like a catch-22. So like I said, there's a fine line of knowing how far to push and how much to do and when to back off and what not to do when you're going through an actual like serious recovery for a major injury. Now, if you're hurt, the main thing to do is figure out where the pain's coming from, because where you're feeling it, chances are it's not where it's coming from. Like if you have elbow pain, there's a good probability it's not your elbow that's hurting. I see this all the time in people. It's not your elbow. Normally it's your scapula. It's under your armpit area, lat, like the lat area, or like the scapula somewhere along the trap or the between the spine and the scapula. And that's normally where the pain is coming from. Sometimes it's in one of the vertebrae in the neck because you have impingement or you're not lined up correctly, and going to the chiropractor can correct that. But a lot of times deep tissue work and doing corrective stretching can actually alleviate elbow, wrist, or knuckle pain, because like a lot of people think they have carpal tunnel or they have tendonitis, but they don't. It's actually coming from their shoulder where they have impingement, because there's a lot of muscle insertions that tie into the shoulder area, the rotator cuff and all that. And then when it gets sticky, it grabs and it doesn't want to move correctly. And then nerves get agitated and then you start feeling it in other areas. So chances are where you're feeling your pain is not where it's coming from. Like when you have knee pain, if you didn't actually directly hurt your knee, there's a high probability it's coming from your hip or your lower back or possibly your ankle, because something is out of alignment that's causing it to pull and shift and not work correctly. So once you find where it's actually coming from, that's whenever you're going to fix your problem.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful information. Like something that I need to even take into consideration when looking into like doing some rehabilitation, rehab type stuff. Like in general, just to help me overall, especially like I said, I need to work on mobility and other things, but it's all helpful in general. It's just trying to better myself, like in the overall sense. Like if I can stay healthy, get better mobility, like keep the body moving like it's supposed to fluidly, I think that's just in general going to be beneficial, which would be the same, I would assume, for most everybody. So.
Yeah, and it's good practice. It's a good habit to form, and it's a hard habit because it's something that isn't fun to do and it's not exciting to do. So it's a hard habit to form, but it's a good practice and a good habit to develop. And, a lot of people slack on it because it's like training your abs, right? Nobody wants to train their abs. Everybody wants them, but nobody wants to train them. It's kind of one of those things, So it's the little things that aren't fun that become overlooked, that become bigger issues later down the road. But I think that's going to be it for me on this one. Maybe we'll touch up on this later and stuff like that, or make a more in-depth video. But for now, I think that's going to be it for me. Is there anything you want to add or anything you want to lead off with?
No, sounds good.
All right. Well, hey guys, we appreciate you stopping by, checking us out, watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, If you would like, go ahead and leave a like. We would appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed already, we'd appreciate it if you would subscribe. And if you don't want to leave a like or subscribe, then by all means, don't do it. It's that simple, guys. But thank you for watching, and until next time.
Yep. Catch you later.